Update: am I the asshole for telling the teacher to stop making comments on my wheelchair? Op. Hi there, it's only been a week since my original post was up, but I have an update already. I'm sorry I couldn't respond to each comment. There was a lot of them and I got a bit overwhelmed. I decided to do what a lot of people said I should, and I reported the teacher who made the comment to my principal, but over the past week I've kept note of other comments she's made to me and other students. The teacher is on a temporary suspension while she's being investigated, but since she holds a PhD it's highly unlikely she'll be fired. The principal was absolutely appalled, but it seemed like it wasn't the first time he's heard about this. I'm just assuming he didn't know the full story. Anyways, that's my update. Not as absolutely mental as some of the ones on here, but it's pretty positive. Great news. Even if she isn't fired, good for you for sticking up for yourself and asserting your rights. Even if she isn't fired, I'm glad you stood up for yourself and that you know other adults in your life are on your side. That's something you can be proud of. It doesn't need to be dramatic to be satisfying. That's a pretty great update. She might not be fired over this, but it's a start. The school are showing they won't tolerate this behavior, and if she doesn't change her ways I'm sure the PhD won't save her forever. Don't let up on the principal if you think they're going to sweep this under the rug. If you live in the US, I would get the AITA involved, or at the very least threaten the principal that you're going to. They'll be scared as hell. On another note, I don't think this is a situation a PhD will help the teacher. A teacher with a PhD got hired at my high school and didn't even last the first year before getting fired for being such an ass. Well done for standing your ground and not letting her abuse her authority. It's good news that her behavior is being taken seriously. Too often these days it's a case of your word against theirs, and employers don't want to make waves, so they encourage a complainant not to make a formal complaint. I hope the outcome results in some positive change and some reflection on her behaviors and attitudes towards disabilities. A PhD in bullying or being offensive? Seriously, they listen to you and are investigating that as good news. Good for you. That teacher definitely has a few screws loose. If I had the cash you would have a new wheelchair, but I was a face painter and you can guess how my bank account is now. People aren't willing to let you paint their kids with a brush tied to a pole. Not after last time. I had a teacher with a PhD in high school and she got fired because she was calling people's emergency contacts late at night to complain students weren't turning in homework. She saw a student get burned while doing an experiment. This was a science class. She did nothing and the student had to wait for their next class to go to the nurse. Never say never. Teacher here, I commented on the first post. Here's what's going to happen. Basically, nothing. The teacher will be reprimanded and have a strike put in her file. All this means is that they now have cause to start termination if this problem happens again. What you have accomplished though is way more important. She now has been formally put on notice that this behavior could now have career-altering ramifications. She doesn't get to do this kind of shit with impunity now. Future students won't have to deal with this, and that's because of you. I know I'm not your teacher, but I'm proud of what you did. You stood up for yourself and others. Sounds like things are going to get better. I wonder if a bike mechanic could look over your wheelchair and tighten up bolts and grease bearings and such and get it quieter and working better for you? Might be worth asking around at pro bike shops to see if you could get a tune-up for $100 or something. I don't know if it was suggested to you already, but maybe start a GoFundMe for your new wheelchair and put the link in the update? Some people, like me, might want to donate to help you a little. And I'm really glad you made things change a little, even if she doesn't get fired. Good job. You did the right thing. I'm just here for update number 2 lol. But yeah, having a PhD doesn't mean anything if you can't properly do your job. People without patience or compassion should not be teachers. Please start a GoFundMe and I'll make a donation for your new wheelchair. Even if she receives no consequences for what she did to you, you might have helped another student in the future. Be proud of yourself. Good job. Awesome. The arsehole deserves to be sacked. They basically harassed and ridiculed you in front of other students because of a disability. Depending on where you live, you could have a case for suing the school for it. I wouldn't suggest doing it. Taking money from schools is an arsehole move. But perhaps mentioning it to the principal that this teacher has left the school open to a lawsuit might help get the necessary result. What's the outcome you want? I get the impression from your original post that you just want her to treat you with respect, and stop making inappropriate remarks about your wheelchair. If the outcome of the process is that she moderates her behavior, isn't that what you want, rather than getting her fired? I doubt that having a PhD will be material in the school's disciplinary policy. Hopefully this will wake her up, but be prepared for some subtle digs. Good thing it's close to the end of the school year. Good for you. You did what's right for you, other students, and future students. Disabled students should not be commented on in any way, shape, or form. As an epileptic student, I had a professor comment on me in front of other students. At the end of the semester I couldn't take it anymore. I went up to him and told him how I felt. He apologized in person and over email. In no single way are you the asshole. At the very least they should force her to sit through some sensitivity training. She's an ableist. Be prepared to drop her class if you ever get her again, even though she should be fired. Even if she isn't fired, the suspension will scare her enough to keep her mouth shut. As a teacher I'm sending out a huge thank you. I know it's not easy, but one bad person who goes into this job is too many. You're very brave and I wish you all the best. It's amazing to me that someone so educated could be so clueless about how expensive a wheelchair is. I thought that was pretty common knowledge. Great update, at least it ought to be clear to the teacher now that what they did was way out of line. Good for you. Also I couldn't believe some people in the other thread were saying your wheelchair shouldn't be making any noise. Wheelchairs make a little noise when you have to adjust your body at all or shift in your seat. They're machines. It's by no means insanely loud, or whatever, and it lasts a couple of seconds. Do they expect able-bodied students to never ever shift in their seat for a second to make themselves more comfortable? Making reasonable accommodations for students with differing circumstances is a basic part of being a teacher. Honestly sounded like she was just uncomfortable having a disabled student. A lot of people are just really unnecessarily weird about disability. That's a great update, but it really makes me wonder. How can someone with significant much education, a PhD, be so ridiculously insensitive and rude? A PhD requires an incredible amount of reading and writing. I am currently in a master's program. Oh my God, the amount of reading I have to do. I read case studies, articles, journals, books, pamphlets, and pretty much anything else you can think up. I thought being an avid reader tended to increase your empathy? I guess it depends on what you read. If this escalates and, God forbid, causes another incident, they could be on the hook for negligible retention, IANAL. Just something I've heard about in the past. Hi, I don't know what state you are in, or country, but many U.S. states have lending libraries and reuse programs where you can borrow or receive an ambulatory wheelchair for free. I run programs in this field and would be happy to help connect you to your area's DME at reuse program. Funny that you say she holds a PhD, since the teacher who did at my HS was the only one to make super uncomfortable judgy comments just like that. Teachers need to be aware of the socio-economic stresses on their students, if only because financial struggle is a big factor in academic struggle, but also because it makes them compassionate humans. Her ignorance of how much a chair costs does not excuse her comments. Because of course she has other ignorances, and also says inappropriate things to other kids. I don't know where you are up, but there should be a licensing agency that the teacher is responsible for answering to. In the U.S., it's by state, for example. I'm not saying go all the way up right away, but it's definitely an option for you if you are dissatisfied with how this school is handling the teacher. The teacher is employed by your school district or equivalent, but they have to be licensed through the state education department, or equivalent. I really feel like this would be getting into lawsuit territory. Bonus points if you start seeing a therapist and can have her testify. Oftentimes shit doesn't change unless legit money is on the line. Thanks for the update. Glad you got the courage up, and much support towards your further education. Sucks knowing the teacher was a long-term but in some places, if after sensitivity training they are still like that, then they get asked to retire. Got a GoFundMe for a new chair? I'm up to donate if so. We can get this done for you if you don't mind. But, I totally understand the fondness for the current chair. Not easy to get rid of something you've relied on for 7 years. And if she's fired or not, Hopefully the teacher realizes her attitude wasn't appropriate and she keeps that in mind for and future interactions with students and people in general. I reported a professor I had issues with not complying with university policy. Everyone said it wasn't worth it. Well, I guess enough complaints had finally been logged against him. He was fired mid-next semester. In America, a PhD is no protection for a teacher. They'll probably just be investigated and put on a plan. Having a PhD does exclude you from getting fired for misconduct. Honestly, her PhD won't protect her if people sue the school. Lucky, white teacher in my class dropped the hard RN bomb and the school did nothing about it when I reported him. PhD isn't what will keep her around, but tenure will make her nearly untouchable. NTA that time or this time. In what world is making comments about someone's medically necessary equipment okay? Hey, congrats, you did a really hard thing for the right reason. PhD or not, when you treat people poorly, treat people less, you deserve to pay for your inhumane actions. PhD doesn't make you irreplaceable, especially if you're a terrible teacher. Oh my gosh, I'm horrified. I am also a teacher and I would never make comments like this about a student's wheelchair. This is appalling. I'm so sorry you had to go through this, and I don't think you did anything wrong. Some teachers get way too comfortable with their students and start treating them as they would family or friends in social settings. Which to me, as a teacher, is weird. She definitely crossed lines. A school should be where everyone feels safe and accepted. If I had a student, I wouldn't comment unless I was going to attempt to help fix the issue. Squeaky? Maybe put some WD-40? I mean, if you aren't going to provide solutions to a problem, STFU about it. Good for you, op. Also, as a disabled person, I would suggest looking up AITA, the American Disability Act. It is a federal law that protects people with disabilities from being discriminated against. AITA website. Here is the link. I'm so sorry you had to go through something like this, and I hope this link can help you understand your rights as a person with a disability. Glad for the update. I hope it continues to be taken seriously. Able-bodied people really don't get how complicated and expensive wheelchairs can be. And how confusing maintenance can be. You definitely weren't taught. You speaking your truth is always the better route than to cave in and tolerate any type of abusive comments. Great job sticking up for yourself and letting it be known that you will not be disrespected. Awesome. When someone in our school was in this situation, we set up a fundraiser and got him an amazing chair. Hope someone does this for you. They are incredibly expensive. I'm glad you reported the teacher. Those comments were terrible.